So Vitalik Buterin just dropped his New Year's message, and it's not exactly what you'd expect from a founder whose network just had a strong technical year. He's basically saying, we made great progress, but we're still missing the point.
Right, and the timing is interesting because Ethereum actually did level up in 2025. Gas limits went up, blob throughput increased, ZK EVMs hit major performance milestones. By most metrics, it was a win. But Vitalik's saying that's not enough.
He framed it around two requirements Ethereum has to meet simultaneously. What were they again?
Usable at global scale and genuinely decentralized, both at the same time. And he's applying that standard not just to the base layer, but to everything built on top of it, which is actually the harder part.
That second part feels like where things get messy, because a lot of dApps use Ethereum for settlements, but still rely on centralized infrastructure for everything else, right?
Exactly. And I think that's what Vitalik's really calling out here. He uses a concept called the Walkaway test, the idea that a system should keep functioning even if its original developers completely disappear. No maintenance, no oversight, just autonomous operation.
That's a high bar. How many apps actually pass that test?
Very few. Most decentralized apps today would break immediately if their front end went down, or if the team stopped maintaining their back-end services. They might use smart contracts for core logic, but the user experience layer is still deeply centralized.
Give me a concrete example. What breaks?
Okay, think about a typical DeFi protocol. The smart contracts might be on-chain and immutable, but the website you use to interact with those contracts, that's hosted on AWS or Vercel. The API that fetches your transaction history, centralized server. The price oracle feeding data to the contracts, often run by a single team. If any of those pieces disappear, the user experience breaks, even though the core contracts still exist.
So the contracts are decentralized, but the application isn't.
Right, and that's the gap Vitalik's highlighting. We've gotten really good at building decentralized computation and settlement layers, but we haven't solved the problem of building truly decentralized applications that people can actually use.
So what's the alternative? How do you build something that genuinely passes the walkaway test?
You need applications where the entire stack lives on chain. Not just the contracts, but the front end, the data storage, the APIs. Everything a user interacts with has to be served from the blockchain itself. That way, there's no external dependency to fail.
And Ethereum can't do that?
Not easily. Ethereum is optimized for computation and state changes, not for hosting web interfaces or serving large amounts of data. You could theoretically put everything on IPFS and use ENS for addressing, but then you're adding more layers of complexity and more things that can break. You'd need a fundamentally different architecture where storage and computation are cheap enough that you can put your entire application on-chain without it being economically absurd.
This is where you're going to tell me about ICP, aren't you?
Well, yeah, because it's directly relevant here. Internet Computer was designed around this exact problem. Canister smart contracts on ICP can serve HTTP requests directly. You can build a full web application, front-end, back-end, database that runs entirely on-chain with no traditional cloud infrastructure. Users just hit a URL and get the app served from the blockchain itself.
But there has to be a trade-off. Nothing's free.
Of course, the trade-off is that ICP made different architectural choices to enable this. It's less composable than Ethereum in some ways. You can't easily fork state or build on top of every protocol without permission in the same way that ICP's consensus model is different. It uses a subnet structure where groups of nodes handle specific workloads, rather than every node validating everything.
So you're trading some aspects of decentralization for the ability to host complete applications.
It's more nuanced than that. ICP still has decentralized validation, but it's partitioned differently. Each subnet is validated by independent nodes, but not every node validates every transaction. It's a different decentralization model. Whether that's better or worse depends on what you're trying to build.
Okay, so it's optimized for different use cases.
Right. Ethereum is optimized for maximum decentralization of validation and composability between protocols. ICP is optimized for hosting complete autonomous applications that can actually pass Vitalik's walkaway test. It's a design choice, not one being strictly better.
Going back to Vitalik's message, though, he also pushed back hard on short-term trends, meme coins, tokenized dollars, artificial usage to pump metrics.
Why does he care so much about that?
Because it dilutes the mission. If the goal is to build censorship-resistant infrastructure for finance, identity, and governance, then filling blocks with speculative nonsense doesn't move you toward that goal. It just creates the appearance of activity.
But isn't that kind of gatekeeping? Who gets to decide what's valuable usage?
It's a fair question. I don't think Vitalik's trying to police what people build. He's saying the community shouldn't optimize for metrics that don't reflect real utility. Like, increasing transaction count is great, but if those transactions are just wash trading or extracting value from retail users, you're not building durable infrastructure. You're just creating churn.
That makes sense. It's like the difference between a bustling city and a crowded casino. Both have lots of activity, but only one is building something sustainable.
Good analogy. And I think what Vitalik's really highlighting here is this tension between technical capability and actual usage. Ethereum has made huge strides on the technical side. The network can handle more throughput, node software is more reliable, the developer experience is better, but that doesn't automatically translate to applications that live up to the original vision.
So what would success actually look like here? What's an example of something that meets both requirements, usable at scale and genuinely decentralized?
It's hard to find pure examples, but let's think through what it would take. You'd need an application where users never have to trust a single company or server. The entire experience, onboarding, transactions, data access, runs through decentralized infrastructure. And it needs to be fast and cheap enough that normal people would actually use it. Not crypto enthusiasts, normal people.
The speed and cost part is where most solutions break down, right? Like, decentralization is expensive.
Traditionally, yes, but that's changing in interesting ways. ICP's reverse gas model is actually pretty innovative here. Developers pay for computation, not users, so you can build applications where users don't even need to hold tokens or pay transaction fees, which removes a huge friction point. That's actually a pretty big deal for usability.
Wait, how does that work economically? Who's subsidizing the costs?
The developers or the application itself. They stake tokens to provision computation cycles, and those cycles get burned as the app runs. It shifts the cost model from pay per transaction to pay for hosting, which is closer to how traditional web apps work. Users just interact with the application normally, like they would with any website.
That does make adoption easier, but I'm guessing Ethereum could implement something similar if they wanted to.
In theory, but it would require changing some fundamental assumptions about how the network operates. Ethereum's design is built around users paying for their own state changes. You could do meta transactions or gasless experiences through relayers, but then you're back to centralizing again. You're trusting the relayer to submit transactions for you, and you're back to the same problem of external dependencies.
It sounds like a lot of this comes down to architectural decisions that were made years ago, and now it's hard to change course without breaking everything.
That's exactly right. Ethereum prioritized certain properties early on, like having every node validate every transaction, and those choices create constraints on what you can build. That doesn't make them wrong choices, but it does mean there are certain use cases that are difficult to support natively.
Okay, so what should someone listening to this actually take away from Vitalik's message, besides the fact that he's not satisfied with where things are?
I think the main takeaway is that technical progress isn't the same as mission progress. Ethereum can become faster, more scalable, and more developer-friendly, but if the applications built on it still depend on centralized infrastructure or extract value from users instead of serving them, then it's not actually succeeding as a world computer. The base layer performance is necessary, but not sufficient.
And that challenge applies to every blockchain, not just Ethereum.
Absolutely. This isn't unique to Ethereum. Every protocol faces the same question. Are we building infrastructure that can genuinely operate without trusted intermediaries, or are we just creating slightly decentralized versions of existing systems? And honestly, most of what we see today is still the latter.
That's kind of depressing.
Maybe, but I think Vitalik's message is actually optimistic. He's saying we have the tools, we have the technology, we just need to apply them correctly. That's not a failure, that's a call to focus. And I think he's also implicitly acknowledging that different protocols might be better suited for different parts of the vision.
Meaning Ethereum doesn't have to do everything.
Right. Maybe Ethereum becomes the settlement layer for high-value transactions and critical financial infrastructure, while other protocols handle the application hosting and user-facing experiences. That's actually a healthier ecosystem than one chain trying to be everything to everyone.
All right, well, we'll be watching to see who actually delivers on this. Thanks for breaking it down.
Anytime.